Okay, we're going to be painting Cassidy today, and unfortunately, the first couple of minutes of the video wasn't running. My camera kind of shut down for some reason, but here you can see that I'm massing in on the left side of the face. You can see a distinct banding of color. So basically what I'm doing is I'm pulling from, if you look at the inset picture, you'll be able to see the colors that I'm pulling from. It's not, unfortunately, it's not quite in sync, but you can see where I'm going with the colors, how I'm getting the values. On the neck, we can see that there's quite a bit of, there's a little gradation in there, very, very slight. Um, and yeah, so here we go. So we're moving along. I got the neck masked in. I also restated the hair, the dark of the hair on both sides, on the left side and the right side. Now I'm working in some of the shadows under the nose. As you can see, I'm adding a little bit more red to that color, well, actually to the shadow, just so we can get a little bit more, I don't know, some life under there. There's some reflective light, and you'll see. Now I'm massing in the lips. Um, so by doing that, yes, I'm going to be using the red color uh, just to get the bottom lip as a top plane. But you can see from the left side and under, I followed the band of light, that shadow, that core shadow. That's important. We want to try to get that masked in as clearly and decisively as possible, because when we went to draw her, we took all that time to make sure we got the right shapes. So what we want to try to do here is do the same thing. Um, so now I'm working on some of the halftones. I'm trying to now bridge the shadow into the light. And just by doing, just adding a little bit more yellow ochre to my palette, as you can see, I can see that I needed a little bit more yellow tone. Okay, and I'm probably going to go back to the forehead or thereabouts. And there we go. All right, so we're kind of in sync here. Uh, Pardon my head getting in the way. Uh, the way this is situated, the camera's like directly, like right in line with my head. So every once in a while, you see the camera shaking. Um, that'll be me hitting it. Okay, so now it's still, the majority of the painting is still the underpainting. I'm working my way out into the average. Once I feel confident that I painted in enough of the halftones, I will be bringing them into the light, and you'll see what happens there. Um, what I also had to do here too, I mixed this palette yesterday. You guys actually should have the video on how to mix the colors. Uh, and what I'd suggest you guys to do is mix the colors. Add a little bit more of the yellow ochre. I didn't add too much yellow ochre here. The yellow ochre just gets eaten up by the cadmium red. So you may have to overcompensate by using a little bit more of the yellow. Um, but either way, it's okay. If the colors aren't exactly like the photograph, don't freak out. It's not. It's really more about painting, um, understanding, brushwork, and taking it, the whole process of working from, working from the underpainting, and then bringing in color based on the values that we have on our underpainting as a guide. Um, this is what we want to do. Um, Now you'll see that I'll be adding little halftones around the nose, I'm starting to get a little further into the light, and at some point I think I just go over and paint the cheek on the right side. Of course, I build up to it because I wanted to get the roundness of that cheek, and just adding. Now you'll also see too, like watch the watch the palette side too. Like right around the nose, I really wanted to get a little bit more gray, and you can actually see me going in there and mixing a little bit of that gray. I have to try to figure out a way to sync up these cameras so they're exactly on time. You got to learn how to do that. But you can see it's starting to take some shape. Adding a little bit more of the halftones. Now you'll also notice too that I'm painting, and I should say I'm mixing in between each layer, right? So I'm meaning each pile of paint. So I'm not just painting from those four values. I'm painting in between. I'm mixing. I'm adding color. I'm adding red. I'm adding gray where I feel that it needs to be more neutral, and so forth. And you'll see as we progress, maybe not in this video, but the next video, I'll be doing a little bit more refining, getting into the eyes. This is another reason why it's important, to have, an accurate underpainting, because what's going to happen is we will be painting over those shapes. If we do have to make a correction, that's fine. It's nothing is set in stone. We can always, paint in a lighter average or a darker average. Like I'm finding in mine that the left cheek I need to broaden. I need to get a little lighter. So my washing could have been a little bit too dark. Excuse me, right there. And so I have to kind of make up for that in the painting stage. And here I am working in some of the averages, her cheeks, and pretty soon I'll be doing, yeah, here we go. So I am, my palette is in sync, might be a little off here and there, like right now, but you'll see that I'm grabbing some more of the paint and working and going back in. So yes, I'm jumping around a little bit. I saw that the other side of the nose, the side plane of the nose needed attention, and you're going to be bouncing back and forth. The idea here is to try to keep the masses, keep the postering, really look at your picture of Cassidy. This is really an exercise in really what we're doing is we are drawing with the brush. It's a little spotty at the moment, but it will start coming together as a whole. You can see that around the accents. Okay, so this is what I'm doing here now. I should have painted in those accents a little bit darker in the like my first application. So when I masked in the band on the cheek on the left side and all the way down to the chin, I should have started putting those darks in accordingly all around the eyes, which I'm doing now. Because what you want to have those dark lines set in so that they're kind of holding together the line of the underpainting, so that when we start to put more paint on, as long as we don't paint over those dark accents, they're kind of like they're a template. They're kind of keeping us accountable within those darker regions of the painting. And the accents really are only, like the nostrils would be considered an accent, and I think I put them in, yeah. And you'll see as the nose starts to take more shape, I'm going to go back around and keep working working those shapes in. So you can see like every application, something new is happening here. It's like, wow, I want to get that. I want to get those cheeks nice and rosy red, and here I'm doing it, right? I actually use the same color on the other side, um, and that would be okay. It's, you know, the 3/4 light is just above head, so she would have a similar value on that side as well, on the right side as well as the left side. Okay, so now I'm massing in more of the flesh tone. Okay, and you can see that that flesh tone is exactly the same value as our underpainting. Okay, so if we work towards that end to really look at the values, because everything in this painting and all paintings, uh, when we talk about, you know, good realism, it's all about the values. And I'm not saying the color isn't important. We're going to be pushing up the color in this one um, on the next video. Whenever I should have time before, or if I can keep this wet and workable, maybe we'll do this in class too. So this way you guys can see. You'll get this video today, which you should be watching now, and then tomorrow I have my watercolor class. I'll probably be able to get a little bit done on it tomorrow too. So Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be able to get the second video out, and that will probably show a little bit more color. And I might break down and add some of my Viridian greens to the flesh tone. I felt with this palette, as great as it is, it's very simple, but it's very limited. It's great for form painting, which is what we're doing right now. So as you can see, if you're watching the video closely, I'm starting to round out that cheek. And yes, there is some areas where I'm going to be blending, right? But I'm only blending until I get to the point where I have the banded values right in line, right exactly where I want them to be. Okay, so going forward here, adding some more accents to the sides of the mouth. You know, they do kind of fold in. They'll have to be refined. Again, this is very tricky because my painting is on an angle, right? It's angled away from me, and I'm not looking at the picture directly as if I was sitting in front of an easel. So I'm at a slight disadvantage, but I think it's coming through now that I see it flat. And I think at some point I do write this painting and I bring it over to so it's level. Sorry about that, but at least we can see. Yeah, we can see what we're doing. Since this painting is only 11 by 14, I am able to get it on my easel, my little tabletop easel, which is a great thing for doing these videos. It keeps everything kind of contained on my table. Now I'm adding more. Here, yeah, this is what I'm doing here is I'm getting a little bit of a reflective light. I'm putting in some more of the red there, adding some reds to the ear, just to give them a little life. The eyes are not done, but because they're in the wash-in stage, they look like they're complete. Okay, so now I actually took right there. I actually took a little bit of that paint, and I unfortunately can't see it from outside the screen, but I took that paint and I put it right on the photo. I have a photograph of her on glossy paper, and I wanted to match that value as best I could, and I felt like I did, and so I'm adding a little bit more halftones. Now you'll see that the big masses are accomplished; they're down. What you'll also see too at some point is basically I'm getting smaller and smaller. So what's happening is the value structure is getting, you know, tighter and tighter. Instead of it being 4 or 8 values, then what happens is it becomes more. It becomes like 8 becomes 16. When we're working this tightly together. And I don't want to put numerical, uh, you know, concepts in painting. You'll see what you'll need to do as you paint. Try to keep, whatever you do, try to keep your light side light and your dark sides dark. And what you're doing now is you're going to be balancing in for the rest of this painting. We're going to be balancing back and forth our halftones and color shifts and things like that. So these are things that we need to focus in on. Now here I'm working around the nose. I really wanted to get some of the shapes reestablished. I wanted to get that nose to project a little bit more. I'll probably go back again and work on some of the structure. So we can see, she basically looks, kind of cartoony at this point, but that's how it should look. Okay, so this is actually, the classical, painting, now opaque painting over an underpainting. Now, if you wanted to, you could work over, so let's say you wanted to do a painting where you did a charcoal rendering on canvas or board or something. If you apply, okay, just spray fix it, and then maybe put a light coat of like a clear polymer gesso. You can paint right over that too, and use that as basically as an underpainting, right? So there are many ways to do this. If you look at X-ray pictures of Mona Lisa, Da Vinci painted, actually drew very carefully underneath. I mean, it was a beautiful drawing, and then started proceeding to add paint on top. So, and there were very many layers of paint. So, yeah, to have a good start, a good solid painting underneath or drawing underneath really helps out a lot. Okay, so now I finally broke out the maul stick. All right, I wanted to, and I did write the picture. Unfortunately, we're missing a little bit of the cheek there. But you can see, I guess if you're watching this large enough, you'll see pretty much the whole head. There's not much that's covered up by that, and I'll be careful about that next time. I'll make sure that I put the palette closer to the edge of that rectangle. Yeah, so here, what I'm also doing too is I'm redefining the edges. Now, I think at some point, if I hadn't done it already, I just used my finger where the hairline and her forehead meet. I just use my finger to just blur that in. Okay, I don't want hard edges. I want to try to keep this is where I'm concerned about my my edges in the shadow. I don't want them too hard. I'll probably even go back and get them a little softer later on. So what I need to do is I just need to add a little bit more. You'll see there's going to be a little bit more tonality underneath the bottom lids on Cassidy's face, and you'll see little by little it'll start to come to life a little bit more. I don't want to go too dark too soon. I'd rather paint in those halftones in the light after I put a base down, because I want something to paint into. I want that soft gradient. So if I was to paint this whole painting, chances are I'd be painting it wet into wet, and I would be making sure that I get all those soft gradients. Now this painting, this is actually sped up 2 times, so it was actually about an hour of painting, 50 something, I think it was 57 or 53 minutes of actual painting time. Now it's not finished by any stretch, but I have a good structure to work on and to as a jumping off point to finishing her off, and also adding other colors. Okay, once this is wet and masked in to the degree, again, not a finish yet, but to a degree where, okay, I feel now I need to start working on my colors. Okay, this would be the perfect time. So the second video, I'm going to be adding in a little bit more of the cool colors. So I'm going to be introducing my trusted Viridian Green, which I love in flesh tone. That mixed with the yellow ochre will give us natural halftone greens that this painting definitely needs. There's also going to be some more modulation in the cheeks. Very fine, but they're going to be there. Okay, we're still kind of looking a little kind of robotic, but for the most part, I'm going back over the eyebrows because they're not a part of the shadow shape. They're a tiny bit darker, but they're also a little bit redder. So because they're red, I wanted to put that red down first. Now here I'm going back and I'm putting a little bit of a highlight just to give me a feeling of depth in the picture. I know this might be a little premature, but it makes me feel a little better knowing that I have some of those lights. Plus, what it does too is it tells me how high or how low in the values surrounding those highlights I need to go. Okay, so it's one thing to paint, that red tip of the nose. It's another thing to make sure that that highlight looks like it's fitting on top of that crest of the tip of the nose. Now here I'm actually working on a very small, I'm working with a small, believe it or not, when I did my illustrations and worked on canvas or board, we used to use watercolor brushes, and of course they didn't last too long, but they were really, really sharp for a couple of paintings, and then you just throw them out. They weren't the super expensive ones. They were nylon, but that's what I'm using here. What's kind of neat about them is that their hairs are they're very dense, so that I can get little transitions. Plus, the point actually flattens out, so it's when you're putting opaque paint on, instead of it retaining the point, which it would if you had watercolor, it's actually making like a very small flat brush where I can get into like little angles and things like that. All right, getting close to the end here. I got 23 minutes out of 26, so we got a half an hour, well, a little bit shy of a half an hour in this painting. Now you guys do not have to rush this, okay? This would actually be a full hour, so take your time, rewind the film, the video rather, whatever you need to do to, if there's something that's not clear, go back and just watch. Sometimes when we just watch, I mean, I can talk about this painting for hours and hours and hours, but it's really just watching and learning, okay? And you'll see that eventually, if you follow these rules, okay, working, and then again, guys, let's say you feel like, okay, my wash-in got a little too dark, follow what I'm doing here, okay? You'll find that if you add these colors, now it might be a little jarring, maybe if you went a little too dark in your halftones, that you feel like the paint that goes on over that looks too light. That's okay, because you can actually restructure your underpainting based on the values. Because remember, now we have the values. You have an instructional video, okay? So you really have a lot of information to work from in this situation. So I think we have about a minute left. So I'm just going to let this play out. I'm just really doing not really tickle brushing. I am actually getting in and working on some of the color, um, adding a little bit more of the vibrancy in the red, and working right now on just getting that mouth to turn. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's a straight line running right into the cheek. All right, so we're almost there, guys. At least for this one. And you'll see that there's going to be more that we need to do. I kept, as you can see, the cheeks here, right on that side, are a little, yeah, I actually did give that a little bit of a softening. All right. Just in case it dried, I wanted to make sure I had a little bit more of a tone there. And actually trying to get the form just to round out a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing there. You can see that red, I'm looking at the painting now in the studio, and I just put that red in there, which needs to be molded. Certain things you do have to, that's it.